Good afternoon and welcome to another installment of Forever Young, the program that celebrates life for those of us who are over 50. And again, my name is David C. Linton, and it's a pleasure to be with you. Part of this program, a production of Hope Television. And of course, I'm always here to bring you information, as we are with our fantastic co-hosts. Two people who I couldn't do this show without, and we just love them. Again, it always puts me in the center of being in the company of two lovely ladies. Of course, I'm talking about Miss Jean Hendricks. We call her beautiful. Hello, Jean.
Hi, David. Again, it's always delighted to share this post with you.
As always, you're looking lovely today, as always. And then, of course, the lady who works behind the scenes she plays dual roles. She's got multiple hats. We couldn't do the show without her. Of course, I'm talking about the lovely and very talented Dr. Sharon Mitchell. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing great, David. And hello to our audience. A pleasure to be with you again.
Well, we always talk about activity and moving. One thing about people who are in the boomers, the baby boomers and a little older, one of the keystones of that generation has always been activism, the ability to make things happen. And of course, we know that we recently lost Representative John Lewis, who was known for his activism and always encouraged us to get into good trouble. And then, of course, we just had this big election here across the country, and specifically in Georgia, and it was activism that helped us move the needle by getting two senators from Georgia, African Americans at that, because of the activism of Stacey Abrams. So activism has been a hallmark of the baby boomer generation. And so today we're going to be talking to someone who is really active and has played a role in a lot of that good trouble. But before we introduce our guest, we always have a word from Jean Hendricks, who always has the thing that sets the tone for the program. So, Jean, I know you got another beauty for us this week.
Thank you, David. And the one that I found today was by one of my authors that I really care a lot about. And he simply entitled this, "My Country, 'Tis of Thee." And it reads, "Of course, you have faced the dilemma as it's announced. They all smirk and rise. If they are ultra, they remove their hats and look ecstatic. Then they look at you. What shall you do? You cannot be both boorish or ungracious, and two, after all, it is your country, and you do love its ideals, if not all of its realities. Now then, I have thought of a new way out. Arise graciously, remove your hat, and tilt your head. Then sing as follows, powerful with deep unction. They'll hardly notice the little changes, and their feelings and their consequences will soon be saved." And he goes on to simply quote this song, "My country, 'tis of thee, land of slavery. Of thee I sing, land where my father's pride slept, where my mother died. From every mountainside, let's freedom ring." Back to you, David.
Wow, that was very, very insightful and very creative of that author to take the words of that song and really put them in the place of the struggle of so many people, especially people of color. And of course, PBS is having the program about the Black church, which shows us about activism and how it started in the church. So it's no coincidence that our guest today is an activist. And not only that, he's a minister. He's part of the clergy at the House of Hope Atlanta. He's a lawyer, a former legislator, an entrepreneur. He's a principal in the law firm of Randall Alonzo Magnum, LLC here in Atlanta. And as I said, as a clergy, he serves at the Greater Travelers Rest, House of Hope Atlanta. He's been in the state legislature. He's a part of the social justice ministry where we first met. And so we are are very honored to have with us today a man who represents getting in good trouble, who not only talks it and walks it, but he actually does it. And I'm talking none other than our guest today, Reverend Randall Magnum Esquire, if we will say so. Welcome to our program.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Good day. Good day. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You know, this has been a great opportunity for us to talk about, some of the things that you've done, not only in activism, because activism, like I said in the opening, has really been the benchmark of the baby boomer generation, from civil rights to stopping the war and all those things, Vietnam. And even today, in what we were able to accomplish as a community here in Georgia collectively. But as a member of House of Hope, you are among our activism heroes. So tell us what sparked your whole activism, hero of activism.
Hero of activism. Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's been just a part of my growing up. When I grew up, and I think one of the things that really touched me was a little kid walking along with the woman I love so much, my grandmother. I had some guys that really disrespected her. Says, "Get out the road, you ends." And I'm just a little kid. And I said, what makes people do that? And it was just wrong to me. And it's just been a sense of just what's wrong and just a calling for justice that has been in my blood. I don't know how to say it except that I just wanted to do something and find some good trouble to get into. All of my life, I've been even in student government, that really, how to make a difference, how to make things better. It's been a part of my whole makeup, and I'm just excited to try to find some good trouble, and that's what we're about. And I'll never forget one time my mother bought some encyclopedias, and I was in the third grade, I think it was. Yeah, third grade. And I said, okay, I'm not going to be a dentist anymore. And I looked in the encyclopedias and I saw all these people that were members of Congress, and they were all lawyers. And so, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer now. And that was it. Decided to be a lawyer. And from then on, and that was my destiny to be a lawyer. And God has had me in some real interesting places.
Well, the fact that you said you're a lawyer, we must say that you are an alumnus of a historically Black college, Howard University, which is also the university that has given us our first African American and first woman vice president. So I needed to acknowledge the fact that the power of a historically Black college, and I'm also a graduate of one, not that's the same one, but one. So I just wanted to dovetail that in there because I think that's a very important thing to make note of. And I know Jean has something she wanted to say to you.
Yes, I would like to ask you this. What types of activism have you been involved in?
Well, you name it, I've been in it. And so one of my best passions has been voting rights. And when I got out of law school, well, before even, as I mentioned, I was in student government. I was on the board of trustees at Howard University. And boy, I had the most fun. I'm a Kappa, big Kappa on campus. I ran against the big Q on campus so he was going to be on the board of trustees as student representative. And boy, I had all the Kappas and all the Qs. We just had fun. And that was I think we just had some great fun. And I really served on the board of trustees at Howard. And Howard just, when you mention HBCUs, Howard brought me out. I was a running in the woods barefoot kid down in Griffin, Georgia. And I started getting into, first I got into a thing at Howard. I said, we don't need to be taking this money from the federal government. We need our alumni to support us. Little to find out, most of our alumni don't have the money and they haven't contributed as we would like for them to do, but we're doing better now. But as far as voting rights is one of my major issues, and I'm really into entrepreneurship. because the median household income for whites is like 188, and for blacks it's like 7 times greater. It's $24,100 for black folks. And so I'm about businesses and growing businesses, helping business people to earn a living and not and make a job rather than asking for a job. That's because I'm for civil rights, and I'm for silver rights, because you can go and we have the right to go to the lunch table. When you go down to your pocket, you got to bring out some money, and we really don't have very many businesses that are in the black community, and we got some sole proprietors that can even earn more, keep more money in their pockets if they're properly structured. And that's something that I'm looking at and trying to educate people on. So voting rights, that's my passion, just civil rights, human rights, and economic rights at this time.
Very good.
So
Thank you
they
so
just to
much.
get us going, just to get us
Right,
going.
right,
Those are my, yes.
right. Thank you.
So, Reverend Maynard, I have a question for you. Has your activism brought about any changes? And if so, how? How have they come about?
Yes. I'll tell you, I'm something that it was a book. The ACLU put a book out, and I was not included in that book, and I really regret that because I just didn't take the time to do it. But when I first got out of law school in the late '80s and the '90s, I filed a bunch of voting rights lawsuits. I would go down to like Meriwether County, Toombs County, Dodge County, all over the state of Georgia, and I would file voting rights lawsuits where there were no blacks on the boards, no blacks on the city council. And basically, someone just recently told me, I filed a lawsuit down in Sylvester, Georgia. They told me that blacks are now running that city. An old lady by the name of Miss Ship helped to bring lawsuits. She was a part of NAACP. And there were no blacks on the boards, no blacks at all. And in my firm, the only black firm between Atlanta and Macon, we brought lawsuits, and where there were no black people on the boards before we got there were black people when we left. And we did that because of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. And that's what in 2013, Shelby versus Holder struck down. That's why we are in trouble. We don't really have any safeguards for our voting rights. And that's why we want the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. But recently I've been talking to lawyers, and I don't even think it has all the safeguards we need in that law. And I was sad to see last night they're talking about immigration rights. I don't want to hear none of that. I want to hear about voting rights first. And we got to put pressure on Biden and my alumni, Harris, to say we need to safeguard our voting rights, because in 2 years, the legislature could flip and we won't have this opportunity again. And we got to do what we need to do to get it done. Don't let me get too far on. I'll go on rabbit hunts. but basically, as far as input, I'm most proud of that voting rights. But then I was served in the legislature, and we did not have a way to fund indigent defense. So I didn't really like it, but I was on the committee that to help find a way to fund indigent defense, because we didn't have money for people to get lawyers. But I helped craft the legislation to help us fund indigent defense, and I've pushed some other legislative initiatives and helped do quite a few legislative initiatives. But those are some of the things, and as I look at it, there are some 65 measures more. There are so many measures to restrict voting right now in the Georgia legislature that it is unbelievable. Voter suppression is real. We've heard of people purging our votes. Hundreds of thousands of people purged from voting. When our elections are, Biden won by only 11,780 votes, less than 15,000 votes. I helped with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. The day before Christmas, the judge threw out their challenge against absentee ballots so that people could drop their ballot off in a ballot box. It's so simple, but and they counted the numbers. Just think, if your election is only by 15,000 or 55,000 for governor, and they can knock off 3% of 5 million votes, they win every time. And so that's what it's about. That's why we have all these voter suppression efforts. And I want to just say that if you are a senior person or someone has some time, this is the time to get involved and to know what's going on down at that state legislature. I think it's about 7 more days to what's called crossover. And that's basically all types of legislation that is to restrict our voting. And if you can call your legislator or just get involved with whatever your passion is, I think that's when we talk about activism, it's just a matter of being a part. I'm so proud to be a life member of NAACP. I'm so proud to be a life member of my bar association, National Bar Association. And we got things going on and we're pushing the envelope, and everyone can be an activist because it's just a matter of getting involved. And I'm so honored that you guys are doing what you're doing because you're bringing the public, awareness of what's going on. And because we got to deal with civil rights, but on the second hand, we got to hold a sword to deal with economic rights. And it's stacked. Like the stimulus bill, the last stimulus bill, most of our people didn't get that money. That money went to people that didn't need the money. People on the, on the Fortune 500, people with serious money in their pockets, but most of our businesses are challenged and going out of business. And so if we join together and organize and strategize and mobilize, we can make a difference. And I think that's one of my things that I like doing. I'm right now working with a group of lawyers, and we're doing talking points for voting rights right now. When we make one step, the enemy comes back and tries to knock us back 3 steps. So we have to be vigilant because 45 was a response to Obama. If we hadn't had an Obama, we wouldn't have had an extremist like this guy. And we got to really be strategic because it's a game of chess. We're not playing checkers. We got to think 5 steps ahead. And so I think that we really got to just get into this thing and make a difference. There's another thing that's happening over right now. Over in Augusta, we got 5 black DAs that won elections, and the one over in Augusta, when that black person won, the county of Columbia said, "Hey, we want to have our own circuit. We don't want to be a part of this circuit anymore." I don't know about you guys, but I don't want an all-white judge, jury, deciding my fate because they're not empathetic. They don't know our experiences, and they misjudge us. And that's why even these police, we got good police, but there are some that just afraid of black people. They're just afraid because they just don't know our experiences. So when we say activism, we just got to get involved and find some trouble wherever there's some trouble, and God will make a way for us.
What's happening at the state legislature right now, downtown in Atlanta, is so important. And, I want us to revisit that because, and really hold on what our listeners and our viewers can do, because right now, as you say, they're working to eliminate the drop boxes. They want you to do a voter ID to get an absentee ballot. So how do you do that by mail? If you're doing it by apps, what is that process? So, and you've been in the legislature and like you said, crossover. So explain those terms to our people. And if you can give us some steps that each of us can take to really make an impact, because again, like you said, Georgia was only won by 15,000 votes. And I read something nationally that 45,000 votes nationally in reality is what gave Biden the victory. Because we always look at the popular vote, which Trump lost the first time, but it says electoral votes. And if you strategically win those, if you have 45,000 votes in the right places, 80 million voters wouldn't have mattered.
Don't matter.
So give us a little insight on that. I went off on a tangent too because this is a passion.
Yes.
But what we can do here down at the state with the state legislation going on now.
Well, interestingly, there was just a hearing on, I think, even this morning, and it was not even Zoom and that's what we got to require, that any meeting is a public meeting, and we have to have access to those meetings. Because of COVID, they're given that excuse, but we have to have access by Zoom or otherwise to be informed of these draconian measures to eliminate our vote. So the first thing is call your legislators, and most of us live in friendly districts, but there is there's an election integrity commission. Now, ironically, the guy that's head of that is one of the most draconian authors of legislation there is. But we can call that commission and let them know that it's about voter suppression. It's not about voter fraud. That's a false claim that's been debunked so many times. And then I want to push our civic organizations. If you're not a member of the NAACP, become a member of the NAACP. If you're not a member of your social justice at your church or wherever you worship, become a member. Get involved in that, because our people perish for lack of knowledge, and basically things are happening, and we can't all do it by ourselves, but with a group or a team, we can get to the dream, is the way I put it. So when we look at the legislature, they meet only 40 days, and then you have so many days. And there's a cutoff, and that is about 7 days from now. That if your legislation has not made it to a certain step within the process, it has no chance of passing for this particular session. So it's important that we call and let people know that we want our voting rights. And it's important that we, even though we're a minority in many instances, that we let people know that we are concerned about our voting rights. Part of it, that there are people that are for voter suppression. They took over on January the 6th, the Capitol. If you didn't notice that, the insurrectionists, they are crazy. So we have to be crazy good from the standpoint of letting people know that we want the right to vote. For example, in 1964-65, President Lyndon Johnson told Martin Luther King, look, I want to pass the Civil Rights Acts, but guess what? You got to go out in the street and affect public opinion and make me sign it. And so we got to create the public opinion. And one of the things Dr. King went and did, he went against the myth. They said black people don't want to vote. So what did he do? He lined up people for blocks and blocks and blocks to say we do want to vote, and we're even to be willing to be be bitten by dogs, whatever it takes. We want to vote, and let people know that. And Bloody Sunday coming up March, the first week of March. Those people that went over Edmund Pettus Bridge, and I've enjoyed going there many times. We have to be involved, and COVID is allowing us to be involved just by getting on a Zoom. There's a Zoom on most of these issues, and a lot of us have time now because we're at home because of COVID, and we can be a part of these Zooms and let our voice be made heard and volunteer. That's why I bring up the NAACP. Volunteer for the NAACP. Volunteer at your church. Volunteer at your homeowners meeting. Make sure that the hundreds, we still got hundreds of thousands of black folks not registered that didn't vote and don't vote. And an election decided by as few as 15,000. That's little. That's out of 5 million votes. That could swing either way, and that's why they're having this legislation. So suppose you can't vote absentee the way you have in the past, or you got to have 2 pieces of ID. Two pieces of ID. As a result, if they can just knock off 100,000 people that look like me, who don't have the socioeconomic background, then that election is won by someone just because of an unfair electoral system. So we got to get involved, and they're just not there. I'm a member of People's Agenda also. Reverend Lowry started something. We meet every Tuesday at noon, and that's just my commitment to be involved, know what's going
on. Gene, I know you had a question, and I know that this has been such an impactful and informative session. Our time is running down. But I do, before Gene asks the next question, I got to get a commitment from you, Randall, to come back and let's do a part 2. We've got to do this. This is just too juicy, too informative. We got to get you to say yes. You're going to do a part 2.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Right,
Now
right.
that we got that commitment, Dean, you can ask that question. You have to be short with
Okay.
that response, and we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, okay. Well, this question is you have such a great variety of activism that you're involved in, but can you be specific as to why did you choose this profession? Why did you choose to go into the profession that you're in? What was your tilting point? Say, I'm going to do this. Go ahead.
Well, I saw that lawyers can navigate the system, and so I said that's what I'm going to be. It started with the encyclopedias my mother bought. It started there, but then it didn't end there. I then looked at the people. I looked at people, and I really struggled with being a minister and a lawyer. That was the struggle. But I said, and there were people that told me I couldn't do both. In fact, there were people in my own family. The only Whew, it's amazing. The only one on my father's side that was educated said, "You can't be no lawyer," because there hadn't been one. I hadn't seen a black lawyer my whole life. But guess what?
Wow.
God is good. God is good.
Yes,
So
yes.
I wanted to be a lawyer because a lawyer you can be a lawyer and you can be on TED. What's the guy that just? You can be a lawyer and do so many different things. And that's why I want to do it, because the lawyers make difference. And Thurgood Marshall is my man, because he had a strategy to change
Yes.
America. And he
Yes.
started, and he's a Howard University. That's why I went to Howard, because I saw
Oh,
some
wow.
awesome people made some changes in our history. And like Thurgood Marshall,
Wow.
got rid of separate people. That doctrine in 1895, the Booker T. Washington, the Atlanta Compromise, that got us into the wrong direction, because separate is not equal. We have
Right.
deplorable, still, it's still things are not, it's not equal. It's not equal.
Right.
As Dr. Lowry, uh, 3 rabbits don't equal 3 elephants. And that ain't the same. So we have to watch out when we talk about what's equal, because our communities have resources going to other areas that should be coming to our communities. And that's why the census is so important. And there's so many things that we can get to be, if you're passionate about, you can get involved in these things. So I want to be a lawyer because, man, you can do some things, and I love it. I just love being a lawyer. I love helping people. I love when people are having a challenge or a problem. Boy, I love them. I love challenges, and I've been very fortunate. God has gifted me to get some people out of some real doozies. I really don't even do criminal law anymore, but I want to help people from an economic standpoint. And there are so many challenges we have with losing our homes, with so many areas. And so that's why I want to be a lawyer, because he can make a difference, and he can step and advocate for those that cannot advocate for themselves, the least, the lost, and the left out.
Well, one thing we can actually say, you are working in your purpose, and very few people get the opportunity to do what they want to do, and that is the blessing, and that's so true. And I can honestly say that you have not wasted that gift or that opportunity by the things that you've been doing. For those of you just tuning in, this is Forever Young. We're about to wrap it up. We've been talking with an esteemed guest. It's really been our pleasure to have Reverend Randall Magnum, who's an attorney, a former legislator, entrepreneur, to just talk to us about activism, the thing that really has changed this country. Even the people who came over here early, we talk about, the Boston Tea Party, that was activism. It was everything in this country has always been, any progress is made over activism. And so we're going to take the liberty of having him to come back to talk to us more about what we can do, how we can do, and how you can be involved. As always, it's been my pleasure to be here with Ms. Jean Hendricks and Dr. Sharon Mitchell. We'd like to thank our executive producer, Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr., and the entire staff of Hope TV for putting these programs together and giving us a platform. It's, out of necessity, it comes invention, it's the mother of invention, should we say. And so out of this pandemic, we've created these platforms to bring a plethora of programs that will enrich your life, and inspire you to do better. And so, on behalf of my beautiful co-hosts, our guest, Reverend Magnum, I'm David C. Linton. Remember, life is nothing but your oyster. And of course, age is nothing but a number, because you're forever young. We're like, until the next time, God bless. Take care.